Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for introduction. It's a real honor actually to be here with you at specifically GDAI conference 2025. Today, yes, I'll be talking about application of LLM in AR VR settings. But before that, I'd like to give a brief introduction about myself. I'm currently leading a team at Turing, working directly with Google, working on different LLM applications, LLM models, and I'm also providing a services as advisory board, being a chief AI officer at Strategy Mist. So I am leading. Actually, I have expertise mainly in large language models and traditional machine learning models, as well as algorithmic accountability and bias mitigation. So yes, I've already provided different kind of works to different organization companies, including but not limited to Google, WPP, as well as Credit Suisse, Volvo Group, UBS, and different one of them. And I've also co-founded Steep AI, where I've developed actually different kind of Swarm AI technologies. And currently, I'm contributing to different official documents, including but not limited to California AI Audit Bill, and as well as publishing different kind of research papers. And I am also a senior member at IEA. So today I want to take you on a journey beyond the world of simple prompts into how large language models are basically powering the next generation of AR VR settings. So we are going to look at why this technology matters right now, and how we move from static prompting to dynamic spatial agents. And I'll walk you through some real world use cases, immersive commerce, industrial maintenance, and event personalized education in AR. Along the way, we'll also tackle the hard stuff, which is ethics, transparency, and needs to build responsibly. So let's start with the simple question, that is, why AR and VR? Why now specifically? So for years, actually, immersive hardware has been catching up, like better optics, accurate hand, and eye tracking, robust spatial mapping. At the same time, meaningful LLMs, actually multimodal LLMs more precisely, have leapt forward, and these models do not just handle text anymore. They can see the scene through cameras, hear speech, and interpret the context. So on-device acceleration also has brought latency down to the point that where real-time interactions feel natural. So cloud infrastructure still provides when we need it, and perhaps most importantly, user experiences, expectations also have shifted. So people don't want to type prompts anymore actually into floating chat box. They want the assistive agents that respond in context seamlessly in the moment. And that brings us to actually immersive commerce. We are entering a world where actually you can try on sneakers, you can probably compare models and actually buy directly inside a 3D environment. It only feels trustworthy if AI actually is transparent about the decision it's making. So let's move on to from prompts to spatial agents more precisely. Now, if we think about the evolution of interaction, we are moving away from the single input output models of prompts. Single agents follow a different cycle, like intent, plan, tools, and probably the final act. So it's not just about giving an answer. It's about creating a plan of action, like calling the right tools and executing inside the environment. So they stream the reasoning. So instead of waiting, you see partial actions immediately refined over time. So they use a memory, not only for the current session, but also for personalized preferences across different experiences. They integrate with external systems, pricing engines, catalogs, IoT sensors, payment gateways, and all of these must operate under main guardrails, I will say. This is the backbone of actually AI at this point, like safety, privacy, policy, and audibility. So without this, you might have flashy demos, but you don't have a system you can trust in production, basically. So I would like to give you small architecture at this point. At the end of the speech, I'll try to show you one small sample, actually, how it works generally like LLMs in AR setting. I will try to show you actually. But first of all, so how does this actually look in practice, like the architecture? On the client side, think of the headset. It captures gaze, gestures, and provides the spatial UI panels and overlays. At the edge, lightweight models handle the weak words, latency-sensitive tasks, and safety pre-filters. So at the core sits the orchestrator, basically multimodal LLM with a tool router, memory, and policy enforcement layer. This is where the context is used, actually, where decisions are made, where transparency is generated, basically. And finally, on the enterprise side, we connect to pricing engines like inventory systems, CRMs, data, IoT feeds, and analytics pipeline. Design goals are always the same, like low latency, privacy by design, and observability, because without these, you are blind to failures and risks. So let's move on to use case scenario, like the very first one, which I'm actually currently dealing with at Turing and as well as Strategy Miss. So let's bring this live with the first use case. The so-called like immersive commerce. Because imagine basically like putting on a headset at a jacket in a virtual environment, a virtual store, let's say. Instantly, the system picks up the signals, product in view, how long you have been looking, what's actually already in your car. So what the local inventory looks like, computer pricing, and even active promotions. So now here's the key. Before picking up, price is shown, policies are applied. You have to firstly, like the guardrails that we were talking about, and must ensure that there are no unfair prices, prices stay within acceptable ranges, and personalization can be switched off if you choose. So then the system shows an explainability panel. The price, let's say this price reflects a weekend promotion and your local store stock availability is there. So what we have really found, and this is backed by actually an internal experiments, is that when you explain the logic, customer acceptance rate rises significantly. So people don't feel manipulated, they feel informed actually. And if they want to control, they have buttons like show me why, use standard pricing, or even like report an issue. This is just the first actually example that we can talk about at this point, but there is also another pricing framework specifically needed for commercive like AR, let's say. But to make work, you need structure, basically. So I actually built a 5-layer framework. Generally, the first one is that is a constant and visibility, so nothing hidden, always a visible update. So the second is actually signals intake, basically. So here we are trying to capture behavior, inventory, and computer data. So, but with strict sampling, obviously, and rate limits, because this is really important at this point. And the third one is policy and constraints, because there is a fairness, compliance, and audit logs live, basically. The fourth one is optimization, because the traditional econometrics and bandit algorithms do the math, while the LLM generates human readable, basically, rationals. And the fifth one, which is a core, a backbone, as we already talked, transparency and control. Users can see the logic, override it, and their feedback feeds back into the loop, basically. It's not just about profitable pricing, it's about responsible, explainable, and trust-building pricing, basically. If we can move on to the second use case scenario, which is like AR maintenance, Copilot, basically. This is, we are trying to refer industrial example. I'm referring to that example, basically. The second use case comes directly from industry and AR maintenance Copilot. So here IoT sensors basically stream real-time data into Kafka, Spark process it, and when anomalies detected, LLM basically translated into step-by-step instructions overlaid in AR. So a technician basically wearing the headset sees the part highlighted and torque settings displayed and sequence basically guide showing exactly what to do. So the headset can even capture video evidence for compliance. So privacy is key here. The critical steps and models are processed on device, while logs are also redacted and batch think later. Basically, the results are measurable. Meantime, basically to repair drops, we can talk about like first path fixes. These rates basically can go up. and error rates basically fail. These are not theoretical benefits. We are talking about operational KPIs that you can rely on, because this is in the end helping you out to achieve achieve the better results based on which you can basically make a decision. And the other use case, which is quite personal, I would say, this is education. You are basically trying to have like personalized education. With the team, actually, we have piloted an AR English tutor. So in this experience, the build around the learner becomes the vocabulary set. So you point to chair, system tells you how to say it. You interact with characters in the environment. Let's say you are trying to learn English better. You try to practice conversations with avatar, maybe. The model basically detects your CFR level, adapting the prompts and feedback. It gives you micro explanations, maybe a grammar nudge or a quick translation if you hesitate. So pronunciation is corrected gently, not harshly. That's the important part, because this way you can catch the attention here. Because we take safety seriously here, the system has filters for age appropriateness, let's say profanity guards, and the private mode. This way the magic happens, actually, taking language learning out of text and embedding it into your build, so your AR. While doing so, you also need to stick to some metrics. So this is where metrics starts being the real matter, actually. Of course, we can adjust field and all, but at the same time, we also need to measure, right? So for commerce, metrics include conversion rates, basket size, and how often customers open the widest price panel. So let's say complaints per 1,000 price views and opt-out rates. These are also important at some point. For maintenance, KPIs are mean time to repair first, let's say pass fix, rate, and safety instant rates. For a tutor, we look at session length, runs per session, and progression across CFI levels. And on the engineering side, the basics like latency between display and action, call success rates, cost per session, and fallback frequency. Metrics keep us honest. They show not just if the system works, but also if it works responsibly. And the most important one of, as we already mentioned about the governance, ethics, safety, and governance part, these are actually non-negotiable, because this brings us to ethics and governance at some point. So we must design for privacy first, on-device pre-processing, and ephemeral audio frames, and only the minimum data required. So for pricing, let's say fair pricing is actually non-negotiable, as we were talking about. The enforce bounds, check for bias, comply with regional laws, and provide an appeal process. UX actually must be transparent. So every user should see a clear rationale, a link to policy, and have simple controls. And then there is also resilience part, which is like red teaming scenarios, incident drills, and traceable rationales for audits. Operational guardrails, like, rate limits, as we already talked about, the safe fallbacks must be in place. So because in AR and VR, breach of trust can undermine basically the overall experience. And the final closing statement from my side would be that in spatial computing specifically, the most valuable experiences are not flashy demos. They are actually not chat windows floating in, let's say, 3D. The real breakthrough is actually in capable agents. We need to make sure that agents are working as per their need. They act in context, explain their choices, and also always keep the human in the loop, in control. So this is just the beginning, and I'm pretty sure that in the future, actually companies or people will opt for such devices, such applications, maybe in their real world, let's say, scenarios. So these are the important. But while doing so, we have to always make sure that it is always transparent, ethical, and also deeply human-centered. Thank you. That's